Letter to my people, the chief told them the plain truth. My people. All along the rumor was that number 2 was planning to upstage Launchmore. Scenarios were mapped out on how this was going to happen. The theory is that number 2 was rallying his base and the removal of Launchmore was going to be as swift as Baba's. But number 2 has instead started bootlicking and praise singing for Launchmore. In the past few days he has called Launchmore a paramount chief and a Manyumyatapa. He even went as far as saying no one will touch Launchmore as long as I live. KKK, unless this is an elaborate plan to lull Launchmore into some sort of comfort, there is no way number 2 could be planning anything against his boss. Unless something changes drastically between today and the next ZANU-PF Congress, I am sure Launchmore is sleeping well without any worries that anyone is plotting against him. The reason for this bootlicking and bravado is that one Miss Bingo chief railed against Launchmore and the party. He accused the government of corruption and eating on behalf of the poor. What the chief said is literally what everyone is thinking and saying loudly. The only difference is that, if some of us say this, we are accused of being bitter and being agents of regime change. On the other hand, ZANU-PF believes it owns chiefs, and traditional leaders should always toe the line. So this is a particularly stinging rebuke from the Mzbingo chief, because it's coming from a quarter that they think they own, and they can't accuse him of regime change. Dear Launchmore and number 2, what Chief Murinye said is exactly how all of us feel. You can call in all the chiefs and read the riot act to them, but the reality is that this will not change the people's sentiment. You can fire Chief Murinye and replace him, but that is akin to fixing the debilitating symptoms. Deal with the problems that people are facing, such as festering corruption, greed and nepotism that are at the core of this government. I know you people always give an example of Baba as being cruel, but did he ever fire a chief? Those who know Chief Ndwene will tell you that his criticism of Baba was quite stinging and even blunter than what is coming from Chief Murinye. But Baba never summoned the Chiefs Council so he could dress down Chief Ndwene. Instead, Baba actually reached out and had a pleasant meeting with the chief at his homestead some time ago. Now enter the so-called new dispensation. Just a little criticism from Chief Ndwene's son, Linlayaming, and they get jittery. They even went as far as jailing him and dethroning him from the chieftaincy. They are now threatening to do the same with Chief Murinye, just for a little criticism. Leaders need to have thick skin and must not be this sensitive. Speaking of number 2, he was in court testifying against his former wife. It's a pity we have no idea what he said, because the magistrate allowed him to hide from public scrutiny. Mary's case has been public all along. If the magistrate thought some sensitive issue was going to come out, then the whole case should have been held in camera. It doesn't feel like justice is being served if one party is allowed to testify in camera while others are dragged in public. The case before the courts has nothing to do with state secrets or anything, but is a personal and criminal matter. I seriously doubt that there were any state secrets that were going to emerge during the case, and so it feels a little unfair that number 2 testified in camera. Speaking of injustice, it was really sad to see Mary falling on the stairs while her former husband had the luxury of being ushered into the court via a back door, far from the clicking cameras. The government has introduced new e-passports, something that Baba introduced 6 years ago. KKK. Anyway, what really riles me is the poor communication from the government. A day earlier, we were told that old passports would continue working until they reached their expiry dates. However, the following day, the story has changed, and instead we are told that all old passports will expire in 2 years. This is particularly unfair for people who paid a whopping $318 to acquire passports in the past few months, only to be told that they have to shell out more money to acquire a new travel document. This is really cruel. Dear journalists, may you please investigate what hold Queen Bee has over this government. It does not make sense that only one person continues to get every major government deal. Even on the new passports, he will get something from the government and us the citizens. Ntambazadwa woye. Munyuiz kuna amai. Dr. Amai stop it. PhD. Fake.